What is up, Four-Eyed fans? Welcome to another episode of Fourth and Frames. We're doing off-season stuff. We're talking to you about fantasy football. We're talking to you about football. We're talking about basically anything that you want to talk about, and we want to talk about, quite frankly, as well. We hope everybody enjoyed round one of the fantasy football playoffs. I hope you're participating in your various NFL fantasy playoff challenges, whether they're through NFL Network or through any site, really. Hope you're having fun with it. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. With me, got Nate Markham, Tyler Heil, Brian Ford. Brian, let's start with you today. How are you doing, man?
Okay. Today was one of those days where you start with 10,000 things to do on your list, and then 2 hours into work, you have 10,000 more. On a positive note, I'm still tweaking my dynasty rankings for our big rankings show next week.
Absolutely. So, Brian, it brings up a really good thing. Next week, we start our dynasty coverage here at Fourth and Frames. And so, with that, we're going to start off with our top 12 at each position, and we're going to debate left and right who do we have in our top 12 in terms of dynasty rankings, and then we're going to do a little counterpoint, some debate. Like, why do you have that person so high? Oh, that's because I have this rationale. Or why do you have that person so low? So that's what we're going to be doing next Wednesday. And then before you know it, the week after that, February through March 17th, we got dynasty content coming at you your way Mondays and Tuesdays in article form. We're talking about risers and fallers at each position each week. And then Wednesday, Fourth and Frames, we're talking about risers and fallers at each position each week. And then plus we'll have some guest pods going on throughout the foreseeable future. So stay tuned to that. Nate, how are you doing, man?
Good. It's a couple more days till we get the. Is this the best weekend of football, or is next weekend the best weekend of football? I think this weekend.
Yeah.
People will argue, but
now that we got all the trash out of the way this past weekend.
Yes,
exactly.
It's great to see the Dallas Cowboys swept away. That made me very happy. Tyler, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm ready for a weekend of real football where we can get these lame-ass 7 seeds out of here and these wildly overachieving 6 seeds.
I feel that is a Bengals slight. Just FYI, I think that's what I'm hearing here. No?
No,
because last week on the show you said you're not a fan of the Bengals, and so I'm just like, okay, is that an overachieving?
I am not a fan. I said overachieving 6 seeds. Okay. I'm not a fan of Zach Taylor. I love Joe Burrow. I love the team. I think the head coach will be soundly outcoached by Mike Vrabel this week, but we'll see if Joe Burrow allows that to change the outcome of the game.
Nice. So how are you doing, man? How's things going with you?
They're great. I'm excited, man. I'm ready for another good weekend of football. Getting some family in town this weekend, so it'll be nice.
Very nice. So today we're going to be going over how we all did in our playoff challenge in week 1. We're going to give you our picks for week 2, and then we're going to talk about what our thoughts are for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And then that's pretty much going to do it for us today, and we'll be back next week. But before we get into all that, let's get into what we did last week. Let me pull it up here, show us who's leading who in the leaderboard. And by this, we see Brian is dominating. Well, not by much. Basically, everybody's dominating but me. Let's see. We got Brian with 118, Nate with 107, Jonathan over in the UK with 105, Tyler 93, and I'm at the very bottom with 81. For those interested in taking us on in the Fantasy Playoff Challenge over at NFL Fantasy, I'll be tweeting out in a little bit a link to sign up and join the Fantasy and Frames group. Bragging rights, all that jazz. Look forward to that. And let's get into who did well, who did what, all that jazz. Let's go to I'll start with my picks.
Can you see our picks from last week? Click on my name or Brian's name. Yeah, you can see.
Let's go with number 1. Let's go with Brian's picks from last week. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So he had Mahomes. He had Najee. Najee Harris really had 0 points. Really?
Fumbled.
Wow.
I took a 0 and still
in first.
That's hilarious.
I took a negative, if that's any better than a 0.
I didn't know you can get negatives. That's amazing.
I didn't either. Yeah, shocker. Forrest Gump analogy is really paying dividends.
Inside joke here, folks. Elijah Mitchell, Cooper Kupp, Debo. Good Lord. How are people going to be ranking him in redraft not outside the top 12? Or how are they going to be ranking him out of the top 12 in wide receiver rankings? It's just amazing. Travis Kelce, Harrison Butker, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nice. Very nice showing there. Let's go back and let's look now at Nate. Let's look at your picks, man. How'd you do?
Like I said, check it out. And
So
remember last week after we talked about the defense, I even said, I was like, you know what? I was like, I should probably take out New England because I don't think they're going to win. And at the same time, and it was going to be pivot to Buffalo or even Tampa. And hindsight is a mother, but yeah, Zeke with 3, Najee with 0. There was a case to be made that those were maybe the top 2 running backs in week 1, overall as far as ceiling. Ugh.
Well, you got us all with a Devin Singletary pick, and in fact, during our Slack chat during the game, I think it was Tyler was like, "And you got Devin Singletary correctly. What's going on?" That was a
well, he had Devin Singletary as well. And I think that's what.
Yeah, Nate was just a kind of a collateral in that not really humble brag, just shooting my own horn in general.
That's okay.
Nice. Ezekiel Elliott. Let's talk about him a little bit from a fantasy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is he outside your top 12 next year in redraft?
Of running backs?
Of overall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's running backs, he's out of there.
Even in running backs, you said, Tyler?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Man, Jerry Jones is not happy with that contract. I wonder when there's an out clause for him, but
it's after 2022.
It's after 2022.
Yeah, they'll lose money against the cap if they cut him in 2022. I think they'll lose over $3 million just with his $20 million cap hit. 2022, I think they can cut him free and clear and only take a $6 million cap hit.
Yeah, I see that happening. It's not looking good there for Dallas. That was very surprising to me how they just got completely outclassed by the 49ers. 49ers just ran the ball down their throats. So it was pretty impressive with that. Conversely, we got Cooper Kupp here with 12 points. But I think the real story of this game was Cam Akers. I did not see that happening at all on Monday night, but that was quite an impressive showing. Him and Sony Michel, that running back core is firing on all cylinders. I think I tweeted out, with as good as Sony Michel was running, who is he auditioning for? You think about the running back needy teams, a team like Miami, maybe they're in the running for a running back. We got let's see here. The Jets are in the running for a running back. They don't really have anybody there per se. I mean, there are a few teams we can get into later.
About Michael Carter like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Is he an every down back or is he a scat back?
He is an every down back.
I would say neither. I would say I wouldn't call him a scat back, but yeah, I think he's probably more useful in the receiving game, And let's see, in a month, Sony Michel will be 27. So something to keep in mind. I don't know how much, an NFL team is going to want to invest in a 27-year-old running back. So,
or, the Rams could realize that, hey, they have a 1-2 punch, and why would we want to get rid of that? So
sure.
Definitely options there. Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, Harrison Butker. We talked about the New England Patriots. All right, let's go to Jonathan's picks here. He had Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon. Yeah, Joe Mixon. That was a little bit of a letdown. Elijah Mitchell, Debo, Cooper Kupp, Kelce, Ryan Suckup, and the Buffalo Bills defense. That was solid picks by him. Let's go back and let's take a look at Tyler's picks. Tyler went Brady, Devin Singletary, Elijah Mitchell. Has Adams on the bye, but we'll get into multipliers in a second. Then we got Cooper Kupp, Gronk, Harrison Butker. Again, the Bills defense. Awesome. I love the multipliers. And we're going to get into multipliers going into this week as well. But before we get to that, let me get to my picks with the lowest total score of the week. Mahomes.
Sneak preview.
Yeah, exactly. Mahomes, Mixon, Fournette, who ended up not playing. So congratulations to me, thinking that I was being all slick, getting somebody right on the last minute. Jamar Chase, Devonta Adams on a bye, Kelsey, Butker, and the Packers defense also on a bye. So that's who we have going into this week. And so let's start in reverse order. And let's just go with my picks for round 2.
Okay.
We got here. I'm going to go with Mahomes again against the Bills. Look, in I think it was week 5 or so, he put up in fantasy points like 21.5 fantasy points. So solid, not like crushing Josh Allen numbers from this weekend, but I'm not expecting a lot. Although I got to be honest with you, I did originally want to switch off Mahomes and go to Josh Allen because of the rushing upside that he will have against the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Chiefs have been not the greatest rushing defense in all of football lately.
Do you think that Buffalo wins?
I do think
because that should dictate your pick.
That's a good point. But the problem is the 2 times bonus here.
That's it. That's the reason. Yeah.
That's what swayed me away from Josh Allen is the bonus.
Follow-up question. Do you think Buffalo loses to Tennessee and or Cincinnati?
No.
Then you would get a 3x pick out of Josh Allen.
What?
Super Bowl.
Oh, in Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking that at this point in an overall competition, granted it's not overall, it's against the 5 of us, and that's the bragging rights, but realistically you're playing for money too. If you're not thinking who's going to have the highest multiplier, one game separation of Josh Allen's rushing upside over the Chiefs over Mahomes is irrelevant. If Allen gets 1x this week, 2x next week, and then has a 3x in the Super Bowl. By that accounts.
If the Buffalo Bills get past Kansas City, I think they will be the Super Bowl representative. Oh man, you're making me want to do this live. I think. I like this. I like that.
Good. I hope you lose whenever they get beat by the Chiefs too. Dick.
Lovely. All right, going Aaron Jones. I'm taking a shot again on another player who is technically on IR, but according to practice reports today, he looked great in padded drills. Talking about Derrick Henry potentially making a comeback. I don't know if you've seen the practice videos, but he looks like a man. He looks like the king, pretty much. And I guess it's practice. I get it, but they're going to need him. Because that secondary is not great for the Tennessee Titans, and they're going to have to keep the ball away from this high-flying offense of these receivers for Cincinnati. And how do you do that? Control the time of possession, running the ball. So that should be a lot of Derrick Henry this week, so that's why I'm starting him. Jamar Chase, like I just mentioned, the wide receivers should be feasting against the secondary for the Titans. Devonta Adams, again, the multiplier, and again, going back to Jamar Chase with the multiplier. Whatever points you get multiplied times 2. Keeping Kelsey in there because he's an automatic start at tight end. I don't know who you would ever in the fantasy playoff challenge swap out Travis Kelsey for, assuming that he's still in it. Harrison Butker. And I'm going with the Rams. The Rams, man, they shut down a mobile quarterback in a pass heavy offense. Like they literally shut down Kyler Murray this past week. And I'm talking from just an athleticism standpoint. I'm not talking about, QB or anything like that. Just from an athleticism standpoint on a subpar offensive line. Now you're going to tell me you're going to give the same defense to take on the Buccaneers with a stationary quarterback in Brady. We look back at what happened earlier in the season. This Rams defense took it to Tom Brady. And the Buccaneers, and that was with a loaded wide receiving core. I see the Rams advancing to the NFC Championship this week by taking out the defending champs. So that's why I'm going to go with the Rams defense here. Any other critiques here besides Josh Allen for this team? Nope.
I got nothing. Well, you know what? I don't love the Aaron Jones pick.
Okay, tell me why.
Okay, I could go there with you. Yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily their lead back. I think he's a 1A to a 1B at best. A.J. Dillon has really staked his claim to that offense. And if you're going to, I guess I do like it because I think the Packers are going to go all the way. But for a 1-round pick, I don't love Aaron Jones.
You would sub out for Devin Singletary, I'm assuming. And that's not me knocking that. I'm just saying that a person, an 80% workload back on a team that Jorge has destined to make the Super Bowl is better off than a 50% workload, or at least 50-50, shared backfield. And I thought about, I'll tell you, when we get to mine, there was a contemplation that I almost had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as my two backs going. And I know that's doesn't sound like a great idea at first, but again, that 2x, 3x multiplier, I don't think there's a running back outside of if Tennessee could make it to the Super Bowl, because I don't like anybody in Kansas City. I mean, we just saw that Jarrett McKinnon probably was the number one scoring running back this week. I mean, don't we think? Was there anybody? I mean,
maybe Singletary?
I think that McKinnon outscored Singletary. I mean, McKinnon had what? Let's just we can do the point totals right now while Jorge changes all of his team because we're telling him what to do.
Pretty much. I'm pretty much following popular consensus here at this point.
Hey, you utilizing your resources.
The smart resources here at fantasyandframes.com. Absolutely. Go back to Mixon. He does again have the 2x multiplier, but this front for the Titans does give me some pause. So I think I will stick with either it's Aaron Jones or Elijah Mitchell for me. I went with Aaron Jones just because I think it's a more balanced offense, and then eventually defenses are going to be keying on the receiving game for Green Bay, which is going to open up the running game for Aaron Jones. I don't necessarily feel the same way about Elijah Mitchell. I think Green Bay is going to try and limit the running game and force Jimmy G to beat them in the air. So that's why I'm fading Elijah Mitchell in favor of Aaron Jones. So I'm going to stick with Aaron Jones. But I understand your points.
Did Jimmy G get hurt?
Did he get hurt? Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Why? Did you hear? Is this something that you heard?
I might be making it up, but I'm going to go ahead and bet that.
You're going to bet that Jimmy G is hurt, or that he?
I'm going to vet that.
Oh, vet that.
He's going to check that.
I was like, I don't like what kind of bet you make.
Exactly.
I think he gets hurt.
Yeah. I think that's bad karma. Okay, so we'll stick with that. Nate, you want to share your screen and show us who you got?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. This is where we. Okay. Nate's picks. So, obviously, week one, as we talked about, contrary to you, believe that KC beats Buffalo. Therefore, that's why I'm sticking with Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, and Butker. The one change that I didn't make was there was an opportunity for me to put Kelsey in, but as we talked about for the season, with Kelsey's up and down weeks, I felt like the 2x bonus for both Jamar and Cooper Kupp were too great to overcome. If Jamar does lose to Tennessee, which is a tricky one, which is why I went with Derrick Henry, because if in the instance they can get past, I think Henry at 2x against KC, it would be, is better than any KC running back even getting almost 3x come Super Bowl time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Aaron Jones pick, that's the dilemma that I had. I had Devin Singletary in there, of course, from last week, and 2x of Devin Singletary is really, really enticing because it's just we know they're going to try to control the running game through Singletary again. I don't know if the 2 touchdowns is likely like he had last week, but I just feel like if I'm stopping them, his 2x game would be equivalent to what I think Aaron Jones would get out of the 3x performance in the Super Bowl. Hence why I switched to the Packers defense as well. And then just have to play it with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's points are just 2x with him, even despite his down week 1. And against it, I'm not going to call Tampa Bay secondary that great. Carlton Davis and everybody's back, I know, but I still think that's better than almost any other receiver option. Then if they lose, I pivot to whatever that may be. If that's Tyreek Hill against Tennessee at that point, their secondary being weak. So, trying to think a week ahead. But at the end of the day, if KC loses to Buffalo, I'm done with this for anybody that happens to have Buffalo picks as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my take there. I will. Anybody have any questions, concerns, compliments?
None of the latter.
Oh,
no concerns or compliments.
No, I really like the Cooper Kupp pick because I have that too. I'm not going to heap praise upon you, Nate.
That's okay. You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it.
I
wouldn't accept it anyway.
Why Green Bay's defense is my question.
Strictly scoring. What I've seen so far is that no defenses are scoring heavy in this particular matchup or in this particular format. And I think that if I can get 3x out of any defense, I have to pick the team that I feel most comfortable advancing to the Super Bowl. And that's Green Bay.
Okay, so it's more of like a future play than it's more so for this
100% a future play. Definitely not this matchup.
Okay. All right.
It's all about 3x Super Bowl prediction.
Understood. Okay, let's get Tyler. Let's see if we can share your screen far as who you got here. Let me remove that.
Do I need to hit stop screen on my side?
Yes, please. Thank you.
There we go. All right. So this is essentially the Leo DiCaprio gift from Wolf of Wall Street of "I'm not leaving."
Such a great movie.
It's wonderful. I won't go all in and quote it directly, but you get the point.
We get the point. We get it.
I'm keeping everybody, man. I like it. I like the diversity. I'm not going all in on one team to advance to the Super Bowl. I'm going to keep my options open. I like my chances of having at least one person that's going to be getting a 4x bonus in the Super Bowl. And I will take my wins this week on 2x from every single position. The way the Bills looked last week was otherworldly. So I will happily keep Devin Singletary in there. Not to take anything away from the Chiefs, who looked otherworldly, but one thing I will say is the Chiefs looked human quite a few times this year. They still have Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to doubt them, but I will be picking Buffalo in this game. I think they can pull it out. I think we're going to get fun Josh Allen again. Brady, I kind of said it last week. I'm not betting against Tom Brady in the postseason. He might lose. The Rams are very good. I love the Rams this week, but I'm not going away from that Brady Gronk stack when that offense is missing Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae, I started him for a reason. Cooper Kupp, he's an absolute monster. No one's going to pull Cooper Kupp out of there. Elijah Mitchell, love Elijah Mitchell. He's a great player. It keeps my options open for the 49ers. He's the only Niner I have. And I'm keeping the kicker. I'm keeping the defense because I like, one of them's going to win. I'm going to get a 3x bonus from one of them. So I'm going to roll with it.
That's a very good point there. Very good point. Yeah, I want Elijah. Well, I guess we'll get into this when we're talking about the game previews, but man, you're making the case for Elijah Mitchell here, and it's kind of like, oh man, I don't know. The Dallas defensive front was supposed to be pretty solid, but he still did a lot there. So it's 95 yards, I think, on the day.
You know what? You got the master and the student. Is the student going to become the master? Is LaFleur going to put the smackdown on Shanahan? I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but I feel great about getting 2 times Devontae points.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Very good. Very good. Brian, who do you got for us?
You want me to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me see if this works. Share screen. Hold on a second. Let me. Sorry, I'm just
You're
used to
good.
this
I'll provide the background
Zoom,
music.
and it.
Something else you could have had prepared, Jorge. This with all the different drops, some background music.
I had my picture yet.
Okay. Chrome tab, and there we go.
All right.
Oakley dokley. I think that's gonna work.
Nuddly Ned, here we go. Add to stream. Here we go.
Okay, so let me preface this a little bit. You know, I like to add some comedy sometimes. So the reason I literally LOL'd that I was in first is given my lack of enthusiasm for NFL playoffs and the fact that I did not know about multipliers and stuff. I just found it kind of funny that I wound up on top. But all that said, you know, I think I don't think I put much thought into this, thinking about multipliers moving ahead and stuff like that. So, you know, I had Mahomes there for this week 2. I subbed him out for Allen because my thinking was I'd rather have Allen against the Chiefs defense than Mahomes against the Bills defense. But then I was like, you know, listen, there's an equal chance the Chiefs could win. So keep them in there, and I roll, and I keep multiplying from, you know, where I started. Everybody else is pretty much the same for the same reasons. I think the NFC is, I think it's actually pretty wide open. As much as I picked the Bucks, I could see any of those teams, you know, making it through. And so I just kind of, you know, kept the 49ers and the Rams there. And the new one this week is because I can no longer play Najee. Is Devin Singletary. I looked through the running backs and I said, okay, who is going to really make like a longer run? At first, I had Cam Akers in there and said, okay, he plays Tampa Bay, but later on he could be good, and I get multipliers. And for me, it was just like I think there's a safer floor of the Bills running the table and Singletary being in there and getting those multipliers. So, you know, again, I don't know that I put as much thought into it as maybe some other folks did, but that's what I got this week. Roast me.
I can't. I'll tell you, I can't, because you, like with Tyler, is all the 2x bonuses across the board will stack, and you already have a nice little lead over most. I mean, if there's, again, what's the better plan? And I don't know that answer. Is to have, like, you know, like Tyler was saying, his approach, a couple different eggs in a couple different baskets, and knowing that you're going to get 4x out of one person, or just shooting your shot and going multiple on one with I'm either going to get first or I'm going to get last. And the Ricky Bobby approach, I guess, is essentially what that should be, because really, I mean, are there ribbons for second place, Jorge? Did we get any?
No, we do not. Should we?
Should we get a ribbon for second place? Do you have anything for first place? No. So
bragging rights, does that count as a prize?
Counts for me. I'll take it.
All right, fair enough.
Get something from our buddies at Trophy Smack.
The 5 of us. I will send a football card to somebody that wins.
Nice.
Let's see. I have a Nick Chubb Prism card right here for you, Tyler. Jorge, here is a
Taylor Heineke.
Stop it.
I do have an awesome Taylor Heineke card.
Oh my God.
Send him. No joke. Seriously, you should see it. I don't know where it's at exactly.
You know what?
But it is cool.
Yeah. Looking at this, Brian, I cannot hate on any of your picks. I love the 2 times bonuses. I love keeping it in there, and you got yourself some share of Bills player through Singletary in there, who's, I mean, honestly, probably the highest workload running back left in the playoffs?
Question mark?
I think he is.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I mean, there's a case to be made about how Cam Akers looked and how they should give him the workload. It'd probably be Derrick Henry, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them, you know, lessen this load with Deontay Foreman.
Man, has any one seed ever gotten less respect than the Titans are getting?
No.
I don't think they deserve it either. I don't think people are just disrespecting them. They've won ugly all year. They've snuck out shitty games. And I mean, sure, they get Derrick Henry back, which is a huge boost. But as much as I dislike Zach Taylor, I don't know if they're going to take down the Bengals.
I don't either. I mean, their defense quote unquote surprises me, because outside of Jeffrey Simmons, they have a lot of good pieces, but it's Mike Vrabel led. He's done the work with that entire defense, because the linebacking core has been kind of a rotation. Jorge, you know that, between Jayon Brown and then David Long, and then who they bring in recently. They just signed someone. Was it Kirksey?
No, it was Cunningham they brought in.
Yeah, Zach Cunningham. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another, just garbage tackle guy from seriously, from 2 years ago. Can you imagine we're saying Zach Cunningham is
quote unquote
cast off from two different teams?
Which, by the way, just as a side note, so I was doing my IDP Dynasty rankings, and I was getting to my linebackers, and I started to hit up some Texans. I'm like, I'm going to bump them up. And then I looked at a list on Facebook of the 2022 free agents. There are 7 linebackers who are going to be free agents for the Houston Texans.
Holy moly.
Including Kamu Grugier-Hill, Christian Kirksey, basically everybody from the Houston linebacking core that you were starting in fantasy that probably helped you get to a fantasy championship, or if not a fantasy championship, all free agents. And I'm like, how do I rank this? This is, it's like, well, where one is gone, the other one will pick up at the slack. Nope. You know what? Because you don't know. You don't know. So it's
that was the approach that the Texans took in team building. They signed a bunch of veteran mercenaries, and to ensure that they had an absolute metric crap ton of cap space this year, and we're gonna see where they go from there.
Right.
And then what kills me is the free agents. What free agent wants to go to that, dumpster fire, of a team with the situation with, essentially them making David Coley the scapegoat of a terribly run team, which up until last year wasn't even ran by anybody. What organization doesn't have a GM for multiple years, and then the multiple bad trades they've made, the Deshaun Watson fiasco, the list goes on and on. The only positive spot on that entire team has probably been that Brandon Cooks has proven us again that he's kind of quarterback proof and can do well. And I moved Davis Mills up in my dynasty rankings.
Absolutely.
Into the 20. I think I have him at 20. I'll tell you. Davis Mills is at 24.
And you know what? I don't want to rant forever, but the Houston Texans are absolutely shameful. That whole organization is an absolute shit show from top to bottom. It should be cleaned out. I cannot believe they fired David Culley. That was an embarrassment to $1 billion organization. And I wouldn't even say that about the Brian Flores firing. I think it was a bad decision, but Flores absolutely made a mess of that offense. I think he mismanaged it poorly. He ran through 4 offensive coordinators in 3 years, and Tua did not look anything like a franchise quarterback. But David Culley getting that team to play every week to the level that they did, and just to have that organization on the same page and not falling apart in the national spotlight was deserving of him coaching out the rest of his contract, and them firing him was disgusting.
So let me ask you a question. Those of you who kind of follow real life football more than I do, in this kind of situation, when it's that it's not an attractive job to that degree, do usually you get a young first timer who's going to take his shot kind of be the coach, because nobody who's a hot coordinator or has any credibility or whatever would take it, and so that happens or no?
You know who you get? You get David Culley.
Okay.
that was the exact same
Fair enough
situation as last year. No one wanted that job, and they had to hire the Ravens, was it wide receivers coach?
Running back. I think it was running
backs coach. and he did a fantastic job. I mean, maybe Nick Caserio he has his New England connections, and he's like, okay, I'm going to get Gerard Mayo or I'm going to get Brian Flores, and this is going to be great. But if they don't get it, either one of those, this is just the rolling tire fire is just going to get worse.
I feel like it's either an up and coming coach or maybe a coach that's not up and coming that, is a younger coach and won't ask for too much control. Or if they're going to go the veteran coach route, that person needs to have player personnel control, or else they're not even going to bother taking that job.
And not to spend too much time on the Texans, but I think people are kind of wish casting this whole Flores is going to go there and Watson's going to stay and all that. The first is not a guarantee. The second is far from a guarantee. Right. So I don't get this, but that's what happens in the offseason.
Well, it's going to be interesting what they do and address the draft. And of course, we'll have draft coverage as the draft goes on, and we'll do our draft fallout from that. But, it's going to be really interesting. I do not anticipate a lot of free agency stuff, but like you said, let's not focus on the Texans. Let's focus on the playoff teams right now. And let's go down to Tampa Bay. Rams, Buccaneers. We'll go around the frames. Tyler, we'll start with you. Who's winning and why?
When you step back and look at it, I love the Rams. I love Matt Stafford. I love Aaron Donald. I love Jalen Ramsey. I love Cooper Kupp. But I'm going to go back to my original take of I'm not picking against Tom Brady in the playoffs. I'm not going to do it. You know what? I mean, the offensive line is a concern. Tristan Wirfs did not practice. That's a big concern. Ryan Jensen's back at practice. But Keyshawn Vaughn showed that he can play a little bit. You still got Mike Evans. Sure, their wide receiver core is a little bit empty, but damn it, don't underrate Mike Evans. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He has 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons for a reason, and Tom Brady is incredible. So you know what? I'm picking the Bucs.
All right, Nate, who you got in this matchup?
I mean, it's just it's such poor, simple analysis, and that betting against Brady just seems to be stupid because we've seen that for me, I've watched it for basically half my life in some capacity. And, you younger ones, not quite half your lives, but pretty damn close to, 65% of it. And I mean, the Rams, I want to give credit to because the one thing that they've really shored up, if you look at the last couple of weeks, their offensive line was going to be a concern to me in terms of, pressures and everything else. And we go back to week 16, no pressures allowed. Week 17, 1 pressure allowed. Week 18, there was 6 pressures allowed total. And then going into the wild card game, again, they didn't allow a single pressure. And it's like, I guess they did. They allowed 4 pressures. I'm sorry. But no sacks. It's still Tampa, but I think it's going to be I think it's going to be probably 3 to 4 point game.
Brian, what about you?
Okay.
Knowing you have zero knowledge or some knowledge.
About knowledge, enthusiasm, and concern and care. So I guess I could. I should go with the Bucs because at last week, kind of on the spot, I said Chiefs Bucs Super Bowl. Even despite my hatred for Tom Brady, but I'm looking at this game and I say, okay, I think the game's in Tampa, so okay, fine, and yeah, Brady, can pull off some magic and all that, but I don't know, I let's say both defenses are good and that they're fairly even. I think the Rams are better, but let's just say they're fairly even, right? Okay, so then you look on the offensive side of the ball. Mike Evans, Gronk, in the backfield, right? Then you look at the offensive side of the ball for the Rams, and now that we're injecting Akers into the situation, right? Akers, Michelle, Kupp, OBJ, Van Jefferson, to a certain extent, Higbee. I just think I think that they're more sort of loaded and ready for this game than the Bucs are. And so I'm going to say the Rams.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Rams as well. They look to me like the 2021 version of the 2020 Bucs, loaded at wide receiver, loaded on defense. has a quarterback who, not as clutch as Tom Brady, but doesn't have to do a lot because he has a good running game, has a good, there's just too many stars that are aligning. Plus, I think Sean McVay has a chip on his shoulder more so than Bruce Arians, who's spending his time slapping players in the head and getting fined $50,000 for each slap. Good for you, Bruce. I just feel like McVay has a little chip on his shoulder from getting that loss in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and he wants some redemption here. And I just think this team is just too stacked to be stopped this round. So I'm going to go Los Angeles. Let's go to the other NFC game, Green Bay, San Francisco. I'll start us off here. I would not be, okay, I'm going to go San Francisco.
Oh,
I'm going to go San Francisco. I think this, I don't know if Bakhtiari is technically back for Green Bay. I don't know if they announced that. Even if he is, I know this offensive line for Green Bay has been playing lights out. I know the running game is a 1-2 punch. And I know that Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But this pass rush is no joke. They shut down one of the high-scoring offenses in Dallas a couple days ago, last week. The pass rush is great. The linebacking core is great. Fred Warner should be fine. Bosa should be fine. And more importantly, the running game is clicking on all cylinders. I do like Elijah Mitchell here. But, yeah, so I feel like I think it was who called the game? It was Romo and Jim Nantz. Romo was saying during the Dallas 49ers game, like, this is like a style of football that is not sexy, that people don't play a lot anymore because it's a high passing league. But you know what? They run the ball. They have a wide receiver who runs the ball. I mean, they're getting everybody to run the ball, control the time of possession, getting points. I think they go into to Lambeau and upset the Packers, and Aaron Rodgers goes to 0-4 against the 49ers in the playoffs.
Okay.
Nate, what about you?
I do think Bakhtiari is good to go, at least from all accounts that I've seen. I'm not too worried. And even if prior to that, the last couple weeks, I mean, look at the game. Tyler, you'll say it, against Cleveland. Go back to week 16. Cleveland, Green Bay. Green Bay allowed 7 total pressures, no sacks, and 5 hurries and only 2 hits. And granted, that was without Bakhtiari, and that was with the, moving pieces around. Fast forward to week 17, they only allowed 8 pressures, again, no sack. And I keep highlighting this offensive line because I think that is the one area that I was concerned with, is having the pressure get to Aaron Rodgers. Because if he can keep the pressure off and the utilization, like we said, I was contemplating putting A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both into this lineup, because pick your poison. And I don't know. I mean, I think San Francisco can slow the run, but at some point, I mean, do you stop the MVP, or do you feed the 2-headed monster that they're going to try to do? And I just worry a little bit about San Francisco's offense as a whole. I don't know why. I shouldn't not believe in the pieces. I do believe in Debo. Ayuk seems to get enough separation. It's still Kittle, but it's hard to go against a healthy Green Bay offense, if that's what we want to call them, I'd say.
Fair enough. Tyler, who you got?
I'm going to stick with my initial pick, and I'm going to say the Packers are going to take this game. I love the Niners. Love Kyle Shanahan as an offensive coach. I did, in fact, vet the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. He does have a sprained throwing shoulder. There's videos of him at practice throwing okay. So, take that for what you will. Mm-hmm. But like Nate said, the 2-headed monster in the Green Bay backfield, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones. I mean, Devontae Adams. I think that's all you have to say. I don't have to go into how great he is. And the other person you really don't have to go into how great they are is Aaron Rodgers. You get David Bakhtiari back. The engine that has been making the San Francisco offense go all year has been Deebo Samuel. And the Packers have 2 very good defensive backs. You got Darnell Savage in the back, and you get Jaire Alexander coming back. He is practicing this week. Nate, one of you guys might know something different, but I think he's going to play. They're going to have to go with Kittle. They're going to have to go with Elijah Mitchell. And I think this offense might stall out a little bit with the matchup of the Packers. So I'm sticking with the Packers. I'm sticking with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and Matt LaFleur the student will become the master.
Brian, what are your thoughts here?
I thought that the Niners Cowboys game had a real good chance to be close last week. And I don't want to give San Francisco too much credit because I was told in a group chat that like Dallas had a lot of penalties or something. So, I don't know that it was all, them winning. There's some that Dallas lost, but and you go into this week against Aaron Jones at home in Lambeau in late January, prime time in the playoffs, possibly retiring or perhaps more likely the last season with the Packers. It's a lot, right? But I think the 49ers are as was said, running on all cylinders at the right time. I think that they have an array of weapons and can beat you in different ways on offense. And I just think that it's there. It's going to be close, but I'm going with the 49ers.
Interesting.
Split.
I know this is pretty good. Let's go to Tennessee and Cincinnati. I'm sticking with my original pick last week. I think Cincinnati goes to the AFC Championship, and it's going to be a shootout of all sorts in that game. So give me Cincy. I think the wide receiving core is just too good. I think they get Joe Mixon back on the right track, and it's kind of hard. You said, Tyler, you can't go against Tom Brady. I'm kind of feeling the same way about Joe Burrow in these playoffs. He's been he's been pretty automatic the past few weeks. It's and I love the confidence. I love the moxie. Yeah, I'm going with Cincy. What about you, Tyler?
Oh. I don't want to go against I don't want to suffer from take lock here with Zach Taylor being a not great coach, but we'll see if he can overcome that. I am going to take the Bengals here. The Titans have won ugly all year. That's the way they are. That's the way they're built. That's the way they win. If they can have Derrick Henry run all over the Bengals, I think they will do it, and I think he might do it, but I don't know how much it will matter because Joe Burrow is just that good. And right now, against a team that I don't want to say didn't deserve the 1 seed because they earned it, but it doesn't feel like they're a 1 seed. I'm going to take the Bengals.
All right, Nate, what about you?
This is the one, man. I go back and forth on this often. I think that if there's one area that can be exploited predominantly, it's not the passing game against Tennessee's pass defense necessarily as much as it may be something to kind of look at just because the Titans are, they've allowed the 8th most passing yards, but they're second in rush defense. So I don't think Joe Mixon gets going against Tennessee, contrary to what you were thinking, just because I think that's the one stranglehold that Tennessee's had on the on opposing teams all year. They finished 2 yards behind Baltimore for the best rush defense in the NFL. I think the area that I'm going to exploit is the area that Tennessee is going to exploit, and that's going to be up the middle against Cincinnati's defensive line. Larry Ogunjobi, if you saw, left the game, won't be playing. If there's one thing that Tennessee knows they have to do is establish the run, and it might be to the detriment of Derrick Henry as long term if you put too much, I'd say, workload on that Jones fracture that he recovered from. I say recovered past tense because I want to be optimistic, and I feel like I haven't given Tennessee enough credit that it makes me lean towards Tennessee that I don't know why I would ever doubt. They have done nothing for me to ever doubt that they can't win this game. Their backs have been against the wall. They've lost pieces. They haven't had a healthy team in 15 weeks, roughly, for everybody. And I made that number up, by the way. I don't know if it's 15 weeks or not, just in case, full total clarity. In case anybody's, Tyler, you're checking or anything. No clue how long it's been, but it feels like it's been a long time. And now they're all finally healthy. And it's like, what? So I'm going to be the lone wolf and go with Tennessee just to break up, so it's not consensus.
All right, and Brian?
And this is why I love doing podcasts with Nate. I learned that the Bengals have a defensive lineman named Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that might matter in the game.
That's awesome.
So, as ugly as the wins were, I do give credit to the Titans for having Henry not having Henry for basically the whole year, having AJ Brown out a lot. Not having much in a supporting cast besides those two to play with anyway, and still compiling wins. They found Foreman and Hilliard performed enough to get them forward, but they were doing it with as Nate said, with a really injured team. That said, I think the Bengals, even if Mixon is shut down a bit, can just they can outscore you, and Burrow may or may not be in an article that I'm writing soon for our dynasty content, and I believe in Joey B, and give me the Bengals.
Nice.
For all clear, I want Cincinnati to win. I really do. I am very excited for this team because I love Trey Hendrickson. I love that offense. I love Logan Wilson. They just have pieces that are fun to watch. So as much as I think Tennessee, I will be rooting for Cincinnati.
Nice. All right, let's finish up with the game of the week. I think it's going to be Buffalo and Kansas City. Nate, let's start with you, my friend.
Kansas City, because they're better. Next.
Okay. All right, Brian, let's start with you.
Yeah,
continuing with you, I should say.
This is a really, really. This could be really good game, and it's a tough call. I think, because I was ignorant of the playoff tree, I asked last week, if the AFC Championship game between the Bills and Chiefs, were played, where would it be? And Nate said Kansas City, so I said Kansas City will go to the Super Bowl, not knowing that was not a possibility that they could meet in the AFC Championship game. Or maybe it was, and I just don't know enough about playoffs. But, and so you look at this game, and Kansas City's home, and, I think, last week you got big game Mahomes. You got trying to cling to dynasty QB1 Mahomes, and that's what he does, right? The opponent this week is tougher in the Bills defensively. I just think that what we're seeing here is a sort of I don't want to say passing of the torch, but I think Arrow is up on the Bills, and I think in general, and maybe because I come at this with such a dynasty mind, I think Arrow down on the Chiefs, and I just think Josh Allen, the receivers, Dawson Knox, throw in a little bit of Singletary. I'm gonna pick the Bills.
All right, Tyler, who you got here?
Follow-up question for Brian: does the winner of this game win the fight to the death for Dynasty QB1?
I will not reveal my Dynasty QB rankings until we do our show next week.
Nice.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, Bills Chiefs, I feel like this is going to be a game of extremes. I honestly have no idea how this is going to turn out. I feel like it will not be a 27-24, something that just comes short of the over-under. I feel like this could somehow be a defensive matchup, a 17-14 final, or it could be a the Saints-Rams from 2019, the 51-48 final where they're pushing 100 points for the over-under, and it's just constant fireworks. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm hoping it is the latter, and we get 157 points scored in this game.
Yep.
Nice.
But I am going to go with the Bills here. Like I said, I don't feel great picking against Mahomes in the playoffs, but Josh Allen is fun. He's a lot of fun, and he showed just how good he can be last week. That was literally one of the greatest offensive performances in NFL history. I think I heard it was since they went back and started tracking DVOA, it was the second best DVOA offensive game of all time. So, I'm going to go ahead and take the Bills.
What could separate them from the first? Just total yardage, I'm guessing, because in number one versus number two, because you play a perfect game, no punts, all touchdowns, no turnovers. Short, I guess it had to just be total yardage. I don't know how DVOA works exactly. I don't know the formula.
DVOA, it's rather complicated, but it takes into account your down and distance. It takes into account situational plays in the game. Are you going for 4th and long? Are you converting 4th and long? Are you not converting 4th and long? And things like that.
And
right,
doesn't it? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like it takes into piggybacking off of what you just said. Like it takes into account the quality of the play. Like if both players rushed for 5 yards, does that mean both players had both quality runs? Well, no. If the player who had 2nd and 3 and rushed for 5 yards had a better quality run than somebody who was on 3rd and 19 and got 5 yards, because it didn't help.
That makes sense. But I guess when you don't turn the ball over and you score on basically every drive, pretty much that's gonna definitely lead towards that.
Yep. And I'll finish this off here. I'm gonna go with the Bills. One of the things, and I see parallels between the Bills now and the Cam Newton Panthers when McDermott was there. Mobile quarterback, big body quarterback, hard to bring down, no running back. And that's been the knock of Buffalo for the past season and a half, is that Josh Allen does all the running. They don't have a good running back to kind of like take the pressure off or have a way of establishing the game. So if you shut down Josh Allen, well, then you just made the Bills one-dimensional. Well, now they have a running back. Now they have Devin Singletary. Now they have that last piece of the puzzle. Now you have a two-headed threat at the running position, whether it's Josh Allen rushing or Singletary rushing against this Chiefs defensive front. I'm not as scared of the Kansas City defensive line as some are. And I think they control the time of possession, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game like it was earlier in the season, but I see Buffalo just because of the multifaceted nature of their offense now with a running game coming out on top over Kansas City. Yeah, and so we will find out who is right, who is wrong over the weekend. And that's going to wrap us up here at Fourth and Frames. Stay tuned next week as we not only get you into round 3 of the NFL Fantasy Playoff Challenge. We'll also talk about our top 12s at various positions in Dynasty, and we'll debate that. So look forward to our Dynasty coverage starting next week, getting you ready for basically we have stuff planned all the way through mid-March and then some. So we're on top of everything. We look forward to giving you all this brand new content and getting you ready for the Dynasty football season. So for Tyler, for Brian, for Nate, I'm Jorge. You all have a great evening. We'll see you next week.
See you.